Hi, everyone. Welcome to our interview series. Today we have Jaap Siekman. Jaap is a business coach in operational and organizational change. With 30 years experience in engineering, operations, lean and quality systems, Jaap, pronounced Yap, the J sounds like a Y, helps mostly blue-collar business owners change their organizational structure, management practices, and work processes. Outcomes include vastly improved operational efficiencies, retention, reduced stress, improved work-life balance for the owner and for older owners, and improved value and sellability of the business. Jaap is married, has 2 young adult-aged children. He stays active by going to the gym, fencing, running, cycling, kayaking. He plays drums and djembe. You'll have to correct me if I pronounce that incorrectly.
Djembe.
Djembe, okay, and is an avid reader. Jaap is a volunteer advisor with Catalyst Plus, supporting business and community organizations in developing countries with Canada's First Nations. So that's really, really incredible. Today we'll be talking about how Jaap helps his clients change how they run their businesses and overcome the hurdles that keep them from growing. So good morning. Good morning, Jaap.
Yeah. Good morning,
Welcome.
Christine.
Yeah. Being a business coach seems very different from being an engineer. That's like two ends of a completely different spectrum. How do you do that?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So I'm a mechanical engineer by education, professional engineer, non-practicing now in BC. Worked in all kinds of industries as an engineer, in engineering management, operations management. But over all those years, I've done a lot of project management and in lean or continuing improvement, quality systems, all that kind of stuff. Had many different jobs, and so a wide exposure to different things. Started doing other things as well, and at one point started coaching people, individuals, and I learned that I actually like educating people, and that I had gathered a huge toolbox that people were missing. And so 5 years ago, when I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do with the next 10 years of my life? I decided to become a business coach. And so that's how that happened. And it was quite a natural transition. And so far, it's been awesome.
No, fantastic. That's like I said, I've worked with engineers and scientists and people that have worked with that side of their brain, and usually I have to translate what they're saying and what they're thinking and implying to other people that are not in those fields.
Yeah,
So I really respect the fact that you have both sides of your brain working and helping your clients. This is amazing. That's just one
I'm
more
not sure
reason.
whether both sides are working, but it gives me a different perspective on working with business owners as their business coach.
That's
So
true. That's true.
yeah,
That wow. And it must be super interesting. So you call yourself a business coach. That's a pretty general term, but you've defined it as operational and organizational change.
yeah.
How are you different from many other business coaches out there? Because there's a lot.
There is, I don't know how many business coaches out there. Everybody these days calls themselves a business coach. There's a lot of them that focus on marketing and sales. That's not me. There's tons of them that are executive or leadership coaches. They work with the business owners on them, on their person. That's not me. I work with business owners on the internal workings of the business. That's how I sort of refine it or define it. Um, the they work or they have an issue with how they run their business. They're stressed out. They can't grow, and they need different ways for working on the business instead of working in the business. And that's what I help them with.
I hear that term a lot, on the business instead of in the business.
Yeah.
Can you just give, for people that may not understand that, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are watching as well. So, what is that? How do you define that? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's one of these things that if you hear it a lot, it sort of starts to sound lame, but it is incredibly true. So a lot of business owners, they are working in the business. They are doing the stuff that the business do. The plumber goes out there, with the plumber that has a plumbing business, they go out there and do their plumbing. They write the invoices and send it out. They do the quotation. They do all the work that the business is doing. And so they're working in the business. Working on the business means doing or taking the leadership. It's like, okay, how do I grow this business? How do I grow a management team? How do I implement or develop and implement new work processes? Get automation into the company. That's working on the business, growing the business, changing the business, setting a vision for the business. Where are we taking this? And so there's a massive difference. And all these owners, and my clients that are working in the business 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
they don't have time to work on the business and make those changes. And so it is a real thing. And I see it every time, with a lot of my clients. And that's what that means.
Okay, thanks. That's super helpful, and I agree with your assessment of the differentiation completely. It just makes so much sense
Yeah,
when you're. I know people get into business because they're frustrated working for someone else, or because they think they can do it better, or all of these different things. They have very worthy goals for their business, but then they go back to pulling wrenches, or they go, and they
yeah,
can't get from they that spot out, and sometimes they don't even see a way clear to that. So having
yeah,
someone like yourself that has done it a lot and helped a lot of other people do it, that's the magic right there of what you bring. So that's really great. I really respect what you're doing, and it's really necessary. There's a lot of people that need that.
yeah.
um, so speaking of the people that need that, what is your main who is your main target market? What companies have you worked with, and what companies do you help?
Yeah. So with my background in manufacturing operations, construction related things, I work best with blue collar businesses. So that is construction, manufacturing, trades, um, cleaning companies. I
Mm.
worked with a bakery. I worked with an engineering firm, although that's not considered blue collar. It's more white collar. Um, but those are the businesses that I work best with in terms of size, 5 to 100 people, 1 to 10 million revenue. That's sort of, and basically throughout Western Canada, although mostly as a volunteer, I've worked with organizations, throughout the world. And,
Mm.
these days with Zoom, you can do that. But with companies that are sort of, limited to Western Canada, I work with them in a hybrid fashion. So usually I fly over for, say, a 3-day discovery session where it's 3 days of brainstorms, group sessions, all that kind of stuff, where we sit in a room and do all this kind of stuff together. And then after that, we follow up weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, through Teams, video call. And that is a really that is a model that works really, really well.
Yeah, I can see that
Yeah,
as being less intrusive on everyone's time too in the business,
yeah,
at the business, because they're not having to travel to a meeting.
yeah,
They're not having to drop everything, and except for making sure that they have that concentrated time with you, so
yeah,
they're getting the most value out of that time,
yeah,
so that they're
exactly.
not distracted. So, and Zoom also, thankfully, it's a platform that allows for people to be less inconvenienced for the things that they need to get done in their
Yeah,
business. So
yeah,
so it's really, really great.
yeah.
Um, what are your clients' biggest challenges? I can see for a lot of trades, there's just so many things come up when I think about the trades and how their business is a slightly different, um, it's still a business and it still has all the things that any business has, but they have unique challenges. So what kind of things are you coming up against? Or are they coming up against that you're helping them with?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure whether those are unique. But generally my clients, they're blue collar business owners. Their problem is, or their immediate problem is not more sales. They have found their niche. They are busy. They are getting, their orders, and their revenue. But their problem is that as a person, they're overworked. They're stressed out. They, they have all this, or this revenue coming in, or the opportunities for revenue, but they can't grow. The business is completely reliant on that owner, and she is already working 16 hours a day, so they cannot spend more hours, and that's the only way to grow the business in their current model. So they need to find a way to change how they work in order to grow that business. So that's most of my clients. Some clients, they're in that mode of, working too much, but they actually want to work less. They want to start going towards semi-retirement or retirement and sell the business. And if you have a business that is fully reliant on the owner, and in particular, when there is a high level degree of knowledge between the ears of the owner, then that's a business that is either not sellable at all, or it's very difficult to sell, or you can sell it at a very, very low price. Or if you sell it, the new owner finds out, okay, I cannot run this business, and then they close the door 6 months after. And that is unfortunately a scenario that happens quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that is a scenario where I can step in, work with that owner to change and reduce that reliance of the business on the owner. And then, that would help improve the value of the business and improve the sellability.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot for people. I know personally, I've spoken to a couple of people in the trades, and they say, I know how to do what I do with my hands. I know how to do the work. I know how to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But being strategic, or as soon as I try and think about how I can separate myself from my business, I go into overwhelm of how can I possibly do that?
Yep.
And then they just put it off, or they push it away and push it away. And next thing you know, they're coming up on 65, or some age that they have in their mind that they really wanted to retire at, and they're not able to do that.
Yep.
That's the really scary part. So catching people way before that time is going to be super critical for them, and getting them connected with you to be able to help them. How can I even do that? I don't even know what the first step is.
Yeah, no,
And
exactly.
yeah, and there's so many different ways it can go. And then as soon as you think about it, the phone rings and there's another customer. All of these things are going on all the time for them. So
Yeah.
especially in the trades, sometimes there's the emergency services calls, right? I mean, there's no end to work in the trades, especially here and now. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. No, it's
quite the
tough.
thing. Yeah. So can you tell me a success story of a client that you helped that was able to successfully work on their business instead of in their business? You don't have to. I don't want you to say names or anything of your
Nope.
clients. I don't want any disclosures, but please, kind of walk us through, how they started and what your successful outcome was for them.
Yeah, success story. So I mean, it's just last week I was in touch with with a client. He runs a electrical company, so he's an electrician by trade, and we've been working together for a year and a half, I think. And it's the same thing. Guys, he was basically by himself with about 5, 6 electricians, helping him out on doing the work. And he wanted to grow. He's not the youngest, anymore. But he's relatively still young. But he was working a lot, and he did want to grow the business. Didn't work. Same thing that I mentioned before. And so we've gone through the whole process that we can talk about. He put, some management in place, worked with his team, delegated some responsibilities there. And he went off to Ireland with his wife for, I think, close to 3 weeks recently. Got back and connected with me again. And I said, "No, how many issues did you encounter when you got back?" And he's like, "Everything was fine." And he's like, "This was the first time that I didn't touch my phone or my laptop, while traveling." And
What a
so
gift.
that's one of those moments where I'm like, yes, we achieved, what we wanted to do. Um, we're not there yet, but the change, over those 18 months or so, it's been massive. And this person is getting his life back. His wife is less concerned about him, and they can start looking in, towards the future. And that's just, such a rewarding thing to see. And that's what I do it for.
Yeah, that's amazing. To be able to go on vacation as a business owner, to be able to go on vacation, period. First thing, like just
Yep.
that by itself is
Yep.
is massive.
Yep.
And then to be able to be away for 3 weeks, not a few days or a long weekend, that is another whole level. And then
Yep.
3 weeks without even having to touch the phone or the laptop. Oh,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
mind blowing. And to not be stressed about it and waking up through the night going, I wonder, did I remember to do this? Did I remember to tell so and so that?
Yep.
All of those things that keep you keep keep pulling you back. It's like for most people, it's like a slingshot, right? It pulls them right back, and it can be the middle of the night. It'll be something that wakes them up. The stress level of having your own business that way
Yep.
is pretty overwhelming, and to be
Yep.
able to get somebody out of that successfully so that they are actually going on vacation, enjoying the vacation, and not worrying about the business. And I can totally understand the feeling of coming back from vacation and there's nothing happened, nothing bad happened. And that feeling inside of, at first it's like, oh, oh no, it doesn't need me. And then the next feeling is, oh, wow, huh, it doesn't need me. Right?
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
it's very interesting how many emotions and feelings and everything are involved as well. And I know you're not the feelings guy. It's not about that for you, but for me, I've seen business owners, they come back and they're fully expecting, they're like, okay, I'm gonna open the door now. And they're just waiting, they're just waiting for everything to come flying at them. Right. And then if it doesn't happen, it
Yep.
it's like, oh, now you have to reset your whole self about how you're doing everything, and what your fears were, and your expectations and your concerns, and to have someone guide you to that from where you were to this point. It's like, I don't even know how thank you can be a big enough expression of how life-changing that is for a business owner and a trade in the
Yeah.
trades especially, right?
I
So
uh,
yeah.
actually I had a very funny response from another client that went through the whole thing, and also with the vacation and everything. And he's, to some degree, he started complaining about, he's like, "Yeah, I feel that my guys don't need me anymore." And I'm
Yeah.
not sure whether I like that feeling.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Because everyone feels like, "This is my baby, this is my
Yep.
business,"
Yep.
it needs me all the time. And I guess something that just came to mind is it's the same as how being how it is to be a parent. Your
Hmm.
your ultimate goal is to grow your children to be independent, to be logically thinking about things, and how do they grow themselves, how do they, to be independent, right?
Yeah.
And if you've done your job and they leave the nest and everything is good and they have a great life and they're, happy with what they're doing, and they, have families and do all of those things, and then it's like, oh wow, then you can stand back and say, hey, I did it. I accomplished that, right? I
Oh,
did that for them. And they're now, successful human beings in their own right. And yeah, yeah, that came to mind when you were saying about part of the process.
and then you
Um,
start crying, oh, they don't need me anymore.
yeah. But when you realize how much more time you have and energy you have and open space in your life in general, you
Yep.
go, oh, wait a second, I like this.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit here. What is your process to help your clients overcome those challenges? Like, what are some steps you can say to let us know some things for people to think about and sort of plant the seeds of, yeah, when you're getting to the point and you're thinking about these things, then you're the person to call for sure.
Yeah. So in terms of the process, so really, okay, how do I do this? How do I work with my clients?
Yeah.
It's more or less like a 5-step process. Um, we're starting off with it's like a discovery retreat. I mentioned earlier, I'll fly somewhere if it is remote for a 3-day, on-site, retreat where we sit together with different teams, going through a 3-step discovery process, which is very similar to when we go travel. And so what do you do when you want to go somewhere? You pull up your phone, you start Google Maps, and you type in the destination. You confirm or you type in the starting point, and then Maps comes up with a roadmap for getting you from A to B. So that's exactly what we do. So my first step is I sit down with the owner or the leadership to discuss or develop and document their vision for the business. The very first question is, what's your BHAG? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? And we try to be smart about it. So specific and measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. Um, and the tool that I use for that is so-called the transformation map, or TMAP in short. It's a format that I learned about many, many years ago when I was working for Philips, Leadlight at the time. And it's a one-page, visual for, the vision of your business or your organization, your department, whatever that is. And, a lot of most of my clients are visual. A lot of people are visual, and in particular in blue collar industries, they're all technical people. And, looking at a one pager gives you a very quickly a good overview of, okay, what is the plan of the owner here? So we start off with the BHAG. We then translate that into goals that are 2 or 3 years out, because that's sort of, that is close enough, to make it more specific. And then we break it down in shorter term goals. But that's, having a vision for the business, that's the step number one. So now we know where we want to be. Then the second question is, okay, where are we right now? So we do a few things there. First of all, we start with the org chart, the organizational structure of the business as it is right now. Quite often, it doesn't exist at all. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I got an org chart, and they pull something out of a drawer and it's 5 years old. Or yes, I have an org chart, and we go through it, and I ask questions related to accountability versus responsibility, and what is the difference? And then when I ask questions, okay, the people that are in your org chart, are they accountable for their part of the business? And then quite often the answer is, well, no, not really. And so then the org chart actually changes. And so we change the org chart as it is. So now we know how the org chart looks like. we do a process map quite often, visually mapping out how the job order or the job execution process looks like. Talking about all the handovers from one person to another, because that's where often mistakes happen. We talk about the systems that they're using, the different tools, any weaknesses that we know about. So that's a process map. And then we do something that is probably my favorite, and that's an open brainstorm about everything that is wrong in the business, that doesn't go well, all the complaints that people have, all the things that people would like to, have better. And I do one of those brainstorms with the management team, but then I also do one with the guys, the shop guys, the electricians, and with those we don't have management in the room, so they can freely and openly talk. And those open brainstorms, they are awesome. They are absolutely awesome. Sometimes there's a little bit of reluctance, in particular from the shop guys. They need to understand what it is that we're doing or how this works. But then once it starts, they open up. And sometimes I have to do sort of crowd control because they are so engaged. They're all talking, and it's like, okay, guys, calm down, calm down. But these open brainstorms, they help all of us to get a really, really good picture of all the weaknesses within the business. And if I may, the most interesting finding that I have out of these, or having done these for now several years, is that when I start talking with a new client, a new business, quite often the owner or the management team, they have certain complaints, let's put it that way, about the staff. Either they're not loyal, or they don't seem to care, or they don't follow the process, they have quality issues. But then when I talk to the shop guys, I find these guys, they're dedicated. They want to do good. They want to do a good job. They want to do a better job. They're proud of their work. They want the company to do well because they understand that if the company does well, then that's good for them. There's just one problem, and that's the management. The management is in the way for them to do their job. Yeah. And so when I go back to the management, and then we go through all their comments, they're sort of surprised. But I say, the good thing is that you guys are aligned. There's no misalignment here. Everybody wants to do a better job. We just need to find a way, how to do that. And so when I started realizing that, I was like, this is incredible. So with those three activities, we have a very good understanding of where the business is at the moment. And then the third step during this whole discovery thing is to basically collect all the findings and put them in a massive action list or project improvement list. And so now we have everything, that we have addressed of what we want to achieve, where we are not working really, really well, and that we want to work on. So that's a long list. People are always getting overwhelmed. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? And so I always have to reassure them, don't stress out. This is not a 2-week job. It's not a 2-month, program. This can take 2 years. Not everything is evenly important. So let's start talking about, okay, where do we start? And so we will identify, the top 2, maybe 5 issues, topics that are most urgent and most important. So prioritizing that the things that we start working on. So we have a vision, we know where we are, and we have an action plan. Right? So that's the very first step. That's the whole discovery phase. Then step number 4 is taking the things that are low-hanging fruit. It's the quick wins. Okay, these are things that are relatively quickly to implement with hopefully a massive return. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they are a little bit strategic. It's like the shop guys, they had mentioned that the coffee maker. had been broken for about a month. So owner goes out to London Drugs, buys a coffee maker, puts it in the lunchroom. There's very little value to it other than, guys, I've listened, here's a new coffee maker. Right. And that shows, it shows the guys that the owner is serious about the change plan. So the quick wins, do those first. Step number 5 is, the bigger things, right? So that's the, the continuous improvement. And that can take months, years, will never end. But, we're starting with the big things and making the bigger changes first, and then start doing new things after that.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very in-depth process, as well as being very relevant and less it's more interactive with everyone, so everyone's included right from the beginning of the process. And so you're getting, like you said, people think the other one's not listening, or they think that they're not in alignment. And when it comes down to it, and an unbiased third party is looking at it, they are in alignment, and there is a way to get there from here, and it's a lot shorter way than what you think it is and what you expect. So it gives people really a lot of hope and a lot of value in that whole term of working with you, to bring their company up and forward, right? And to give them some breathing room as well, really, right from the start, the things that you're talking about. So that's really important to know. And at this point, I just want to say to everyone who's watching or listening, that the information on how to reach out to Jaap and get an appointment with him is going to be in the description of the either audio or video, on YouTube, or every different format that this is going to go out into the world in. And so please do click on the link, set up a time, and have a discussion with Jaap. Absolutely, for sure. And thank you for being here. And I wanted to also talk to you about what are your top three recommendations for anyone in business, regardless of whether they're in trades or blue collar or any business. What are your top 3 books that you like to recommend to people?
Well, I guess you see a bunch behind me here.
I do.
My number 1 business Bible, as I refer to it, is definitely The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Michael Gerber, he wrote the book in, I think, 1986 or something, or 1985. It's still a bestseller. And it is a really, good description and an explanation for why, people start a business out of their profession and then are not able to grow the business, and they're killing themselves, and then fold the business 5 years after.
Yes.
And so a lot of what I talked about, the organizational structure, the accountabilities and delegation and that sort of things, it basically all relates to the E-Myth. So that's my number 1 that any business owner should read. The second one is a little bit more technical, but it's The Goal, by Elijah Goldrath, I think. It is also from the 1980s. It's mostly related to manufacturing assembly companies, although it is applicable to every business. But it's really talking about constraints. Why that is a company not able to produce more? How to identify, the one component that's holding up everything else. Great book, easy read. And then I would say the third is The Supervisor by Hugh Alley. Hugh Alley is a local, BC. He's a specialist on lean in manufacturing environments. And he has talked in this book about the incredibly important role of the supervisor, which on itself is, I think, a role that is in many cases is undervalued. But the way that you describes it, it's like the supervisor is the guy, or the guy, male, female, or whatever, is the person that is actually executing your mission. It's the person on the shop floor who looks after the shop people and makes them to get the things done that need to be done. And so if you understand that role, properly, you train the person, you have the tools and everything in place, your shop becomes a well-oiled, running machine. Not having supervisors, or having supervisors that don't understand their role, don't know what it means to be a supervisor, it remains a struggle. And very interesting thing that I've noticed a few times, when I, for example, talk or ask the supervisor at a client's company, like, how did you become the supervisor? And he's like, well, the owner, or it was the general manager, he walked up to me one day and he's like, do you want to be the supervisor? And sure. And then what? Did you get a job description? Did you get training? Did you get mentoring? Did the others, were the others told that you are the supervisor now and what that means? He's like, no, not really. So situation like that's not really gonna work. And so Ali, in his book, The Supervisor, he describes that whole process and what's needed. And it's been super useful and worthwhile. So
wow, yeah. And I'll put the links to those books in the descriptions as well, so
sure.
that people can go ahead and start educating themselves a little bit more on, and it'll help also. All three of those books, I'm very familiar with them, and all three of those books will also help people go, that's where I'm going wrong with that, or that's why me and so in my one of my employees are clashing all the time, right? Or things like that. And you go, oh, now I get, now I see.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're in it so deep, they're not able to come up and out and over top to see what their role is actually.
Yeah. And it's it's very interesting because you got the books which provides us all the theory. Mm-hmm. I never know exactly what's gonna ring a bell with my clients. And so I was with a manufacturing company in the interior at the beginning of last year, and I brought up the training matrix that Ali has in his book. And basically, it's just a matrix of all the people in your business and all the things, all the workstations, the equipment that require training. Mm-hmm. And then in the matrix itself, it identifies, to what level everybody is trained on these, or whether they are not trained at all, or whether they require training. And so I just showed that, not thinking much about it. And these guys, they went ballistic. It was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest. This is what we need. And we can use this for safety training as well. And then so they implemented the whole thing, and they started using that as their guide for cross training and bringing people up. And then they also started using this for that was not a client. There was an electrical company, different electrical company, but they also started this, or they started using this for identifying the charge out rates for different people, because they had different levels of training. And so everything got together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an unintended consequence, but a positive one.
Yes. I like those positive unintended consequences. I live for them and I celebrate them whenever I'm speaking with companies as well. The amount of, I want to say, juice you get out of identifying those wins, and especially the ones that nobody's expecting, and everybody just opens right up And the buy-in from everyone on the shop floor all the way through the organization, it just changes the dynamic of everything. And people love coming to work instead of going, oh, I'm going to go to work again. And when you can change that dynamic, everything changes in the whole company, in the whole business,
massively.
and everything that the outside world sees of that business as well, right? And so again, you're getting all of this positivity and this juice from getting these really, really good positive things. And there's the ones that you're expecting. So you're going along and you're following your processes and you're getting things done, and that's great. But it very quickly becomes old hat, or it's not really it's not a big deal anymore.
Yep.
So then you stop celebrating. So when you get an unintended positive consequence, it's like what? you can get everybody all involved, and everybody's loving the fact that that they feel inside, that leveling up of the company and that leveling up of the engagement, and being seen, heard, and appreciated. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. No, I know. It's good that you mentioned this, because there's been instances where I had, for example, one lady owner. We had gone through this process, and then it's like, now your vision. We have a plan for getting there. So now get your staff together and roll out your plan. So that everybody understands what's going to happen here. And so we prepared, that meeting with her, and she was very nervous about that. She wasn't sure where this was going to go and what the responses were going to be. And so she did the whole presentation, and then after that we talked, and she was like, it went really, really well. So I did the whole thing, talked about the team map and the vision and everything, and then after the meeting, there was two guys, she says, that came up to me, and they are like, thanks for sharing this. We now know what you want to do. How can we help? And she was like,
yeah.
Right. That was such an incredible relief for her. She knew that she was not on her own, to get this done. She had her staff, supporting her.
Yeah.
And, that's, while I'm talking this, I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because it's life altering, basically.
Yeah.
Right. It's unbelievable. And that's just by, sharing your vision. And that's why that I mentioned that, the one page vision or team map, it's such a powerful tool, because everybody that looks at that understands what it is that you want to achieve. The guys that read through it a little bit, they can see what's in it for them.
Yes.
There's growth, money, opportunity for management or supervisory roles, doing different things,
growth.
And
growth, right?
Yeah. And so you've heard of John Kotter, probably. He's sort of like probably world #1 guru in change. And one of his steps in the 8-step model for change is to be able to have a vision and to be able to share that vision with your staff in order to get them on board with the whole program. And this is what she did, presenting that team map.
Wow.
You get that buy-in. So yeah, fantastic environment or experience.
It really must have, like, the amount of relief she got getting that kind of validation from those people, and not just one person, two people, right? To be able to know that, okay, now we've got pillars, now we've got people to work with, to say we've got our first adopters, our early adopters. And so because of that, now when they're down on the shop floor, or they're out with the team on the road, doing whatever they're doing, they feel like ownership as well. They own their role, they own the responsibility for good outcomes and quality work and
Yeah.
all of those things, but they feel it themselves. It's not because somebody said you have to, right?
No,
Uh,
exactly.
and being able to be that it's I want to say self-actualization kind of thing, to have that and to be given permission, right? To be a leader in the company, even if you're not a leader, right? You're a
Yeah,
leader
exactly.
because you have pride in what you're doing. You have pride in the
No,
company you're working for. And those things just you can't buy that. You can't buy
no,
that.
yeah,
You have to let people know that it's okay to be that way.
yeah, and involve them in the whole process of process improvement, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been just it's been very refreshing, and there was a number of times I got goosebumps as well while you were letting all of us know about what how your process works, how you've helped previous clients, and how you're still helping clients now, and being able to help them get what they really need from their businesses, which is success and freedom, and get their life back.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
having me, Christine.
Oh, yes, and I'm sure we'll be talking again very soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.